Hey friends, it's Alex. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my r/fantasy bingo TBR. So if you don't know what that is, it's the R Fantasy Reddit group. They do like a yearly bingo reading challenge type thing, and I wanted to participate this year. This TBR is going up slightly late, however I did create my TBR and post it as a blog post on my blog already, and I think that was in April-ish time when the challenge starts. But the reason I'm only getting around to filming this video now is to do with kind of why I was gone for a bit. So I haven't uploaded a video in a while and I'm finally getting back into it, and life was just a lot and I wasn't reading, and now things are chiller and I'm reading again and I'm kind of getting back in the mood to make videos. So here I am, and I thought, why not just make a TBR video now and share what I'm reading for the R Fantasy Bingo anyway, even though it's a little bit late and I've already read like 5 of the books, but that's fine. So I will put the bingo board here for you to see, but then I will also go through each prompt and tell you what I'm planning to read. So the first prompt is first in a series, and for that one I am planning to finally read Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency by Douglas Adams. I read, oh my god, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams a very long time ago. Really loved it. I really like Douglas Adams books, and I've just never got around to this series, and now is finally the time, and it's first in a series. I have them all on audiobook and I'm looking forward to finally reading it because I just love Douglas Adams' writing. It's so funny and engaging and I love it. And this one is about a guy called Dirk Gently, and he is a private investigator and he has a detective agency. Okay, so the next prompt is alliterative title, and for that one I have already read the book, and that was The Symmetry of Stars by Alex Myers. I was just very intrigued by this one because it is fantasy, which I love, and it also is kind of discussing the nature versus nurture debate of like raising someone and how much of their personality is influenced by nature and how much is influenced by nurture, which I did psychology in high school and in college, and I find that stuff really interesting. At one point I kind of thought it might be something I pursued, and it didn't end up being that, but I do still find it just fascinating, especially in the context of like a fantasy book. And I really enjoyed this one, and I'm really glad I picked it up. I only even heard of it because another Alex Myers book was in one of the Goldsboro Sci-Fi Fantasy Fellowship Book of the Month books for a couple of years ago, and then they also did this edition when it came out. So I never would have even heard of it if it wasn't for that subscription, so I'm really glad that they included that book and that it led me to this book, and I'm now really looking forward to reading Alex Myers' other book, which will hopefully be soon. But yeah, so for the second prompt, alliterative title, I have already completed it, so that is off to a good start. Do you like my mug? It's got books on it. And it's also massive, so I have loads of tea. So the next prompt is Under the Surface, and for that one I have chosen The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. I am assuming this one will fulfill the prompt based on the title, and also I'm pretty sure I saw it mentioned on the recommendations thread on Reddit for this prompt. So I thought I would put it on here. I've had this book for ages, I haven't picked it up. It's a really nice cover. I love this cover. I love the colour palette. And it's got a really gorgeous spine. So pretty. And I don't know a lot about this one, but I have read that other XOXO, I think it was, by Axie O, and I did really enjoy that. It wasn't like a favourite or anything, but I had a good time reading it. I listened to the audiobook, it was good fun. And the little tagline at the bottom of the blurb, I don't know if tagline's the right word, but whatever, says, "The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea is a magical feminist retelling of a classic Korean legend, perfect for fans of Uprooted and Spirited Away." Which I actually I've not read Uprooted, and I'm not familiar with Spirited Away. I know it's very popular, but I've not watched it. But I'm looking forward to reading this. The next prompt is Criminals, and this is another one I have already read, and for that one I read Among Thieves by MJ Kuhn. I thought this book was enjoyable. It didn't blow me away or anything, but I had a good time reading it. I believe it's going to be a series. I don't think I will be carrying on with the series, but yeah, I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I didn't. This came in the Goldsboro Sci-Fi Fantasy Fellowship subscription as well, so it wasn't one I would have picked up myself. But I'm glad I gave it a try instead of just unhauling it. But it wasn't a favourite, it was just a bit of a fun read at the time. And this is a heist novel full of lots of criminals and like gangs and stuff, so definitely fit the bill there. The next prompt is Dreams, which again I had to rely quite heavily on the recommendations thread, because how was I gonna know without having already read the book, unless it is like a major plot point. But what was recommended on that thread and what I wouldn't have thought of myself, so I'm glad I went to the thread, is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, which I have been wanting to read for a very long time, and so I'm glad I finally have the chance to be getting to it. This is a classic, and in it they burn books, and apparently it involves dreams in some way. So I am looking forward to reading this. I've been wanting to read it for a very long time. Like I say, it's a classic. I definitely want to check it out at some point. And now it's on the TBR, so I'm going to get to it sooner rather than later. The next prompt is Entitled Animals, which means that the title has to contain like the name of an animal in it. The book itself doesn't have to have the animal in it, it just needs to be in the title, I believe. So for that one I went for The Wolf of Oren Yarrow by K.S. Villoso. Again, I've been wanting to read this for a very long time. I believe this is the first book in a trilogy, and it sounds really interesting, and I'm hoping that it will be the kind of fantasy I really, really love. The tagline for this one says, "They called me the bitch queen, the she-wolf, because I murdered a man and exiled my king the night before they crowned me." I'm really looking forward to checking this one out, and it's nice and floppy, so it opens nice and easily, so it'll be nice to read. I love a floppy book. So the next prompt is Bards, and for this one I don't have the book I'm planning to read, but I would like to read, I'll put it here, Bloody Rose by Nicholas Ames. I think that's how you say his name. Apparently that one has bards in. I have the first book but not the second. I haven't read the first book, so I'll need to read the first book in order to get to the second. But as far as I know, that's only a duology, so that shouldn't be too hard to read, and the series in general just sounds like it will be a lot of fun. I think the first book follows like a bunch of old men, which sounds like it's going to be really entertaining, and I'm really looking forward to checking this series out. So I will need to get to that first book soon so I have time to read the second book as well. The next prompt is Prologues and Epilogues, so that is to read a book with either a prologue or an epilogue or both in it. And I've gone with Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. I've been wanting to read this for ages. Again, I got the really pretty Waterstones edition, and then I missed out on the second one because I hadn't read the first one. And they're so expensive now, like, wow, I'm never going to get it now. It's got gorgeous end papers. I am in love. This edition is just so beautiful, and I just want to read it and I want to love it, but we will have to see. It's also like really short for a fantasy, which can be good, can be not so good. This one just has a prologue, it doesn't have an epilogue, so that is fulfilling by having a prologue, and I'm really excited to read this one too. So the next prompt is self-published or indie published, and I've gone with The Way of Eden by Philip Chase. I love this cover. I love the like stained glass vibe. The whole series is like this. I think it's so pretty, and I've been wanting to read this. I've heard amazing things about this series. and I'm just dying to give it a go. My problem with like picking some of these up now is that I'm in the middle of a lot of series and I don't want to add to it, so I need to like finish some series before I start some other ones. So I need to get on that so I can actually get through some of these, because I am so excited to pick up like this one and like The Wolf of Oranjero and stuff like that. So I really need to get on. But yeah, I cannot wait to read this. I've heard that it's like a proper classic fantasy and I am here for it. The next prompt is romantasy, which is not my favourite genre. I do have a small selection of romantasy books. So I have gone with That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. It's short, although it's the first book in the series, but I imagine it will be a quick read. It's not got the tiniest text, so I can't imagine it would take me long. And I think they will just be a bit of fun. I'm not really expecting anything amazing for these. I'm expecting just a bit of a good time. And I've heard some interesting things about this book and this series, so I'm looking forward to giving it a go. I'm not sure what I'm going to make of it, but I will definitely go in with an open mind. And the thing that I really like about these books and what the author has done is that she's like right at the start she's got a page of just content warnings. So if there's anything in here that triggers you, you can know like right from the start. Because I find sometimes it can be quite hard to find content warnings, and I like it when they're included in the book, and I think more people should do that. The next prompt is Dark Academia, and this is another one I have already completed, and for this one I read Babel by R.F. Kuang. I was so intimidated by this one. I think I kind of thought it was going to be more on the literary side, and I think a bit of it did go over my head a little bit, but it wasn't as scary or as hard to read as I was kind of anticipating. I had a really good time with this. Well, like I enjoyed my reading experience. It was quite a heavy read. A lot of like racism issues mentioned and discussed in this, and I just thought it was done really well. I really enjoyed the language side of it as well. I find that stuff quite interesting, and I enjoyed kind of that, all these just little bits of like etymology of words and stuff. It was just really cool. But yeah, it ended up not being anywhere near as scary to read as I thought it was going to be, so if you're like me and you're intimidated by this book, just give it a go, because it wasn't actually all that scary and it was really good. So the next prompt is multi-POV, and for that I picked a book that I have had on my TBR for a very, very long time. Like, it is ridiculous. I don't even remember how long it's been now. I have like the whole series and I've never even touched the first book, but that is The Kiss of Deception. As far as I'm aware, this follows a woman who runs away from her wedding, and you get her POV. You also get the POV of the person she was supposed to marry and like an assassin or something, and both of them are sent after her to find her. But from what I understand, you don't know which is which while you're reading it. I think that's what I've heard people say, which is what's always really intrigued me about this book, and I don't know why I've never got to it. And I need to get to it. I've put it on so many TBRs at this point, and I just really hope that by putting it on this one I finally read it. Like I say, I've already read like 5 books from this TBR, so sometimes when I make TBRs I just don't stick to them, but this one I seem to be sticking to, so I'm hoping that means I will finally read The Remnant Chronicles. The next prompt is published in 2024, and I haven't really put a book for this one yet because I don't think I've really picked up many 2024 releases yet, because I like to wait for them to come out in paperback, which generally means I have to wait till the end of the year. So I'm just going to kind of fill this one with whichever 2024 release I end up picking up first. So this one I haven't planned anything for. I'm not going to know what I'm going to read for it until probably much later in the year. The next prompt is Character with a Disability, and for this one I went with Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao, I think that's how you say it. And this is another one I have already read and I really enjoyed it. I started it and like the vibe it kind of gave me at the start wasn't really what I was expecting and wasn't what I thought I would enjoy, but I thought I'll just keep reading it. I've got like the nice Illumicrate, I think it is, edition. Yeah, it's the Illumicrate edition. And I thought I'd just stick with it, and I ended up really enjoying it. And now quite highly anticipating the second book. I really enjoyed the romance in this as well, more than I thought I would. I feel like I've been going off romance lately, but I don't know if that's just because I've been avoiding it that I think I don't like it. And actually when I pick it up I do end up enjoying it. I'm really looking forward to the next book, which I think comes out in December, so I've got quite a wait, and I wish I'd waited a bit longer to pick this one up, but oh well. The next prompt is published in the 90s, and for that I have a book that I again have been meaning to read for a very long time, and that is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. I love the BBC show. Nope, it's the Amazon show. I love the Amazon show. It is so good. Anyway, it's so good. I just love it. I love the story. And I've been dying to read the book, and I got this on audiobook, tried it, wasn't really in the mood for it right at that moment, and then after that they released a new audiobook with like a full cast, with two of them being David Tennant and Michael Sheen, who played Aziraphale and Crowley in the show. And so then I got that one, and now I just need to actually get to it, but I'm so excited to listen to that audiobook. It sounds amazing. I can't wait. I'm planning on doing this like an immersion read, I think I've seen people call it, where I read along while listening to the audiobook, because I think that could be quite fun, and that's how I've always just kind of envisioned myself reading this book for some reason. Okay, so the next prompt is Trolls, Goblins and Orcs, oh my. And that is to read a book with trolls, goblins or orcs in it. And for that I'm going to read another one I don't have yet, but Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry. I loved Legends and Lattes like just about everyone did, and I still haven't picked up Bookshops and Bone Dust, and I really can't wait to get to it. And the main character is, I think, an orc, so that obviously fills that prompt, and I'm so excited to read it. I have that one on audio, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's narrated by Travis Baldry himself, because he's also an audiobook narrator, so he's done his own audiobooks, so I feel like that would be really cool to listen to on audio, so I'll be picking that one up soon. Okay, the next prompt is space opera, and this is where this TBR is going to differ from the one I published like a month and a half ago on my blog, because I started reading the book I originally had for this prompt and wasn't enjoying it, and so I DNF'd it, and so I've now had to change the book I have for this prompt, and I only read like 60 pages, so I didn't really think that was enough to count it. But I originally had Winter's Orbit, and I wasn't enjoying it, so I've changed it, and I'm pretty sure this book counts as a space opera, but I'm like not super clear on what really is a space opera, but I'm pretty sure this one is. I googled it and it came up with results that had this title and space opera in the page. So the book I have put in place of Winter's Orbit is The Deep Sky by Yume Kitasai. I think that's how you say it. Kitasei. This one I picked up very recently, right at the end of May. We did a trip to London, me and Jez, for our 2-year anniversary. It was very lovely. I ended up with COVID, so that was not quite so lovely, but we had a really lovely time in London. We saw Mousetrap and Alba Voyage. It was great. We also went to Forbidden Planet, and I picked up this book and another book, and because I've just got it, you know, it's fresh on my mind, so I'm really excited to read it, and I'm pretty sure it counts as a space opera, so I thought I would chuck it in here. But I think it's like a murder mystery in space, and it just sounds really interesting. And this author has also released a new book this year, or is releasing a new book this year, I can't remember if it's already come out, that is like, follows like an art thief in space who returns art to like alien civilizations, which sounds really cool as well, so I really hope I enjoy this one, like in the writing and stuff, so that I can pick up her next book as well. The next prompt is Author of Colour, and for this one I have Raybearer by Jordan Ifweko. This will be a reread for me. You're allowed one reread in the Fantasy Bingo, and I have been desperate to reread this book. My camera always cuts off after half an hour, and I don't know how to change that setting, if it is a setting I can change. But anyway, I've been desperate to reread this book. The first time I read it I gave it 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. I was obsessed. I have 3 copies of the first book now. I have this standard paperback, the Fairy Loot hardcover and the Illumicrate hardcover, because I just love it so much. And I have never read the sequel, and I want to reread the first book. I want to really do the sequel justice by having the first book fresh in my mind. Hopefully that doesn't backfire. Hopefully I still love it as much as I did. but I thought I would stick it on and finally push myself to reread it so I can read the sequel. But yeah, I just remember loving this book so much. I was like so sucked in to the world and the writing and the characters, and I was just obsessed with it, and I really am looking forward to rereading it. But I am a bit scared because, you know, when you reread a book and it just doesn't give you the same feels as the first time, I'm really worried that will happen. The next prompt is survival, and for this I'm finally going to be reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I absolutely adored The Martian. It was one of my favourite books ever, still is. Love the film as well. And I just haven't picked this one up yet, and I don't know why. It is quite long, but I don't mind long books, so I don't think that's why. I've just been putting it off. Oh my god, it came out in 2021? Bloody hell, I've had this for like 3 years and I still haven't picked it up. Okay, yeah, I really need to read this year. So I put it on this. I am so excited to read this. I've heard amazing things about it. I cannot wait. I need to pick this one up soon. I think partly I'm just scared it won't live up to how much I loved his other books, and that's why I've been putting it off a bit. But I do really want to read it because I love his books and I've heard great things and I'm so excited. The next prompt is judge a book by its cover, so like a cover you really love, and this one I have also already read the book for, and that was The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I listened to the audiobook of this and I will not be carrying on with the series. I enjoyed it, it was fine, but I didn't love it, and I have so many other books to read. I'm glad I gave it a shot without just unhauling it, but it wasn't really my thing anymore. I'm kind of growing out of YA fantasy, and I just, yeah, I had a fun time. I didn't love it. What I do love is this cover. This cover is absolutely stunning. I've always been obsessed with this cover. And also, like, I don't know how well it's going to show on camera, but the end papers are like this really nice sort of dusky pink, and it just looks so nice with the dark green. Like, I just love this like design. It's so aesthetic and pretty. The next prompt is set in a small town, and this one I again had to get help from the recommendations thread on Reddit. But I am going to be reading The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is another one I've had for a very long time. Again, I couldn't tell you how long, but it's been on my shelves for a while. And again, I've heard really good things. People absolutely love this series, and so I have been wanting to check it out, and I thought I would chuck it on this when I saw that it fulfilled this prompt and it was recommended. It's not what I would typically read, because I know it's set in our world, and I'm not sure if it's historical or not, but generally I like my fantasy like medieval inspired but set in a made up world. I'm not big on historical fantasy, and I'm really not big on fantasy set in our world, but every now and then I come across one that kind of surprises me and I end up enjoying more than I think I'm going to, and I just kind of have a feeling about this series that despite it being set in our world and like generally not it kind of fits all my anti-buzzwords, I guess, I still just have this vibe that I might enjoy it anyway, so I really want to give this one a go. The next prompt is 5 short stories, so you can either read like 5 short stories or a short story collection, and I'm not the biggest short story reader. When the series have short stories in them, I tend to just ignore them, so I don't really know what series I have that could like what short stories I have in series that could fulfill that, if that makes sense. So I've gone with a short story collection, and I decided to just look up something completely new, so I'd never heard of this before filling out this TBR. And this is Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. And I just thought this sounded so fascinating. And I'm really intrigued. Like, I'm not a big fan of short stories, but this one had me so intrigued that I just really want to check it out. I'm going to read you the synopsis because I just think it sounds really cool. With Stories of Your Life and Others, his masterful first collection, multiple award-winning author Ted Chiang deftly bends human emotion and scientific rationalism in 8 remarkably diverse stories, all told in his trademark precise and evocative prose. From a soaring Babylonian tower that connects a flat earth with the firmament above to a world where angelic visitations are a wondrous and terrifying part of everyday life. From a neural modification that eliminates the appeal of physical beauty to an alien language that challenges our very perception of time and reality, Chang's rigorously imagined fantasies invite us to question our understanding of the universe and our place in it. And it just sounds so fascinating. Like I said, I am so intrigued. And also I believe one of the stories in here was the inspiration for the film, I think, Arrival. If that's not the name, I will put the name here. But Jez and I watched that film, like we just randomly picked it one day. We were just looking through like Netflix or wherever it's on and just randomly picked it, and it was a really good film. So when I found out that made me even more interested in this. This is what I'm hoping to pick up really, really soon because I'm intrigued. Although again, I'm kind of scared I'm not going to like it. So I've only had it like a month and a half and I'm already putting it off a bit. But yeah, I am so intrigued by this. I cannot wait to check this out. I have no idea what to expect, but yeah, it sounds really interesting. Okay, the next prompt is Eldritch Creatures, I think that's how you say it, and I just kind of had no idea what that meant, so I relied very heavily on the recommendations. And one book that was recommended that I own was Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham. I have absolutely no idea how this fulfills the prompt, but it was recommended in the thread for that prompt, so I'm just going to trust Reddit and read this. This is another Goldsboro Sci-Fi and Fantasy Fellowship book. I've been trying to actually get to them because I spent a lot of money on them and I want to make sure I'm actually reading them, and there are already quite a few that I just know are not for me that I've just unhauled, which is a shame. I have also cancelled that subscription a very long time ago, so I'm not getting them anymore, but I want to make sure I'm actually reading the ones I did get. But yeah, I don't really know what to expect from this, but I am keen to give it a go, and I'm glad that I had a book that fulfilled this prompt, even though I don't even know what the prompt means. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what I think of this one. I'm intrigued, but I have no frame of reference. I don't really hear people talking about it, so I just don't know what to expect. Only 2 more prompts to go, I promise. So the next prompt is reference materials, so like a book that has reference materials through it, like a map or things like that. I can't think of anything else right now. I'm filming this at 8 PM. But for this prompt I've gone with A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. I love books about dragons, and I also love books that... This is a new discovery for me that I've only just sort of recently realised I really enjoy, but I love books that kind of present ideas or creatures that do not exist as if they are fact and explains them in a scientific way. I find that really interesting. So I'm really excited to read this, and it is full of reference materials because it's got a map at the start, and then just all throughout, I'll see if I can find one, it's got these drawings of different dragons. And I have been wanting to read this series for a while. It's quite a long series, so I did kind of hesitate a bit putting this one on this list because I like to read my series back to back, and I think this one is quite a long series, but I think a lot of the books aren't long in themselves. And I'm hoping I just end up really getting into it and getting through them quickly. But I've been wanting to check this out, and I'm glad I could fit it in on this TBR, so that hopefully I will definitely get to the series this year. The last prompt is book club or read along book, and this is the R Fantasy Reddit page thing. I don't know what the correct terms are for Reddit. Subreddit, that's the one. The R Fantasy subreddit. They do book clubs and read-alongs, and there's a whole load of different book clubs that are kind of hosted through there, and so you could pick the current book or any previous book. So I had a look at the previous books and I went with Ink, Blood, Sister, Scribe. I bought this because it's a book about books and that makes me really interested, but I'm not sure if it's the kind of thing I normally read. So I thought I should put it on this TBR, partly because it was one of the few books I had that fit, and also it would kind of push me to give it a go. I do like the cover, and I do like the vibe and the fact that it's a book about books. This is one of the ones I'm not as excited for, but that's partly why I put it on here, to push me to read it. So hopefully I will get to this one soon. It's also a standalone as far as I'm aware, so that should help me get to it sooner because I won't be having to start another series by picking this one up. But I'm keen to check it out and give it a chance. Again, like, it's not my usual thing kind of on paper, but it may end up surprising me, so I do want to give it a go before I get rid of it. So that was my Our Fantasy TBR. I'm going to wrap this up quickly because I'm losing the light and I think it is becoming noticeable. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you have any opinions on any of the books I have mentioned in this video, please let me know. If you are participating, let me know what you're planning to read, if you're doing the bingo as well. But yeah, thank you for watching my video. Thank you for coming back after my break. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!